What if I told you that true power isn't about how loud you speak, how much money you make, or how many people know your name? What if the real key to a strong, unshakable life, one built on clarity, calm, and control, lies in mastering just four things: your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind? Miss even one, and life will humble you. Quietly, brutally, repeatedly. You might be smart, talented, even well-meaning, but if you can't hold your tongue when anger rises, if your mood flips when things fall apart, if your spending spirals when temptation whispers, or if your mind runs wild with fear, doubt, or distraction, then you're not in control of your life. You're reacting to it. But here's what the Stoics knew long before self-help books filled shelves. Freedom isn't about having control over the world. It's about having control over yourself. Not your past, not their opinions, not the weather, your job, or even your luck. Just you, your thoughts, your choices, your restraint. The ability to pause when most would explode. To stay still when the world gets loud. To walk away when ego wants to chase. To choose clarity over chaos. This isn't a motivational speech. It's a Stoic blueprint, a manual for self-mastery. So in this video, we'll uncover the four silent forces that shape everything around you. Your words, your emotions, your finances, and your inner world. Master these, and storms may come, but they will not shake you. Ignore them, and your life may look strong from the outside while quietly crumbling within. Let's begin. Section 1. Control your mouth. The tongue has no bones, yet it can snap relationships, crush opportunities, and burn bridges. No apology can rebuild. He was a solid man, 7 years with the company, quietly competent, always prepared. The type of man you don't notice right away. But when he spoke, people listened. He wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. His presence spoke for itself. Until one afternoon, in a high-stakes leadership meeting, a younger colleague was chosen to present a strategy, one that he himself had helped shape. As he watched the presentation unfold, frustration built. The delivery missed the mark. Key points were watered down, and so mid-presentation, he snapped, he interrupted, voice raised, tone sharp. He was right, but the room went silent, and from that day forward, things changed. His words may have been accurate, but his delivery rewrote the story. Trust faded, influence shrank, respect, once given freely, now came with hesitation. This is the danger. You can win the argument and still lose the war. You can speak truth and still lose your power if you don't control the how. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." The wise man doesn't speak to prove, he speaks to clarify. And most of the time, he waits. In today's culture, silence is underrated. Everyone's talking, everyone's interrupting, everyone's reacting. We live in a world where the loudest voice often wins the room, but loses the soul. You don't get in trouble for what you didn't say. You get in trouble when your mouth moves faster than your mind. And afterward, you feel it, the regret, not just for what you caused, but because deep down you knew you didn't need to say it at all. Control your mouth and you control your influence. Let your mouth control you. And it will cost you far more than you think. Have you ever noticed what happens when someone walks into a room and says less? When someone pauses before they speak? When their words feel measured, like each one was earned through scars, failures, and lived experience? People lean in. They listen. Because in a world addicted to noise, discipline is magnetic. Let's bring this closer to home. Think back to the last time you said something out of anger. Maybe it was during an argument with a friend, a partner, a sibling, or a colleague. You didn't truly mean what you said. Not exactly. You were reacting, defending, caught in the heat of the moment, but the damage, it stayed. You apologized. They accepted. The air cleared. But still, somewhere deep in their mind, there's that quiet whisper. So, that's what they really think of me. And the cruelest truth, you can't unsay it. That's the cost of an undisciplined mouth. Now flip the scene. Think of someone you truly admire, not for their charm or charisma, but for their clarity. Do they rush to speak, or do they listen first? Do they use words to dominate or to direct? That's the real difference. The average person speaks to release emotion, to vent, prove, to react. The wise person, he speaks to guide direction. And the Stoic, he speaks only when silence is no longer sufficient. Controlling your mouth isn't weakness. It's power restrained. It's strength refined. It's the understanding that the most dangerous weapon you carry at all times isn't your fists or your intellect. It's your words. They can open doors or slam them shut. They can lift someone from the edge or push them right over it. They can lead people forward or leave behind invisible scars. But the most dangerous part, your words don't just shape others, they shape you. What you say to others often reflects what you believe about yourself and what you constantly whisper to yourself. That quiet inner dialogue becomes the world you live in. So the next time you feel that spark rising, before you snap, gossip, complain, or simply speak out of habit, pause. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this useful? Am I adding light or just more noise? Because in the end, you won't be remembered for how loud you spoke. You'll be remembered for whether your words mattered or meant nothing at all. Control your mouth. Speak less. Mean more. Let your silence speak louder than most people's shouting ever will. The section 2, control your mind. Now let's go deeper to the source, because what controls your mouth is what lives in your mind. Your mind is not a mirror of the world. It's a mirror of what you've chosen to focus on. He didn't lose everything because the world collapsed. He lost everything because his mind did. He got laid off. It hurt. It shook him. But that wasn't the end until he decided it was. He stopped applying for roles, told himself no one was hiring, said he was too old, too late, too forgotten. So he withdrew. He stayed quiet. He accepted defeat, not out loud, but inside. Weeks passed, then months. Friends checked in, offered leads, encouraged him, but he ghosted them, not because he didn't care, but because in his mind, he'd already lost. The opportunities were real, but his thoughts told him they weren't meant for him. And that's how most people lose, not in the world, but in their heads. Long before failure shows up in real life, it's already won a quiet victory in the mind. That's where most battles are lost. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." You see, your mind is a gate, and what you allow in shapes everything else. If your thoughts are chaotic, your actions will be too. If they're filled with fear, anger, envy, or anxiety, your relationships will show it, your habits will reflect it, your results will echo it. But here's the deeper problem. Most people don't even realize what they're letting in. Most people don't even realize what's living in their minds. They walk through life unaware of the invisible scripts looping in their heads. Old fears, silent doubts, buried assumptions, and they let those thoughts linger, unchallenged, untested, unchecked, like mold growing in a dark, humid room. The longer you leave it alone, the deeper it spreads. Let me ask you this. Have you ever said, "I can't," before you even tried? Assumed someone disliked you just from a glance or silence? Felt anxious over a scenario that never even happened? If you nodded to any of these, you're not alone, but you're also not dealing with reality. You're dealing with untrained thought, and worse, you've let it run the show. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts pass like clouds in the sky. It's a battlefield, a war zone. And that war, it's not being fought in the real world. It's happening between your ears. If you don't learn to lead your thoughts, you'll be ruled by fear disguised as logic, by assumptions disguised as awareness, by emotion disguised as truth. Let's ground this in the real world. A Stoic man wakes up in the same chaos as everyone else. The noise, the deadlines, the bills, the unpredictability of people. But what separates him isn't the world around him. It's the world within him. He chooses what thoughts are allowed in. He chooses what deserves his attention, and he filters everything through reason, not reaction. He doesn't entertain thoughts that don't serve his higher self. He doesn't wrestle with imagined disasters, and he certainly doesn't let a single bad moment define his day. But maybe you're thinking, I can't help how I feel. Yes, you can. You just haven't trained the discipline of thought, and like any muscle, it grows with use, or atrophies from neglect. Controlling your mind doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means refusing to let emotions hijack your story. It means not accepting every thought as truth. It means interrogating your inner dialogue with surgical precision. Ask yourself, is this fear, or is this fact? Is this truth, or is this just an old wound speaking through me? You can't always silence the storm, but you can stop giving it the wheel. The Stoics trained their minds deliberately. They had tools, not theories. Journaling, to confront, challenge, and clarify thoughts. Meditation, to observe without clinging. Reading, to install better frameworks instead of feeding on mental junk food. Solitude, to hear your own voice beneath the noise of the world. Let's be honest, if you feed your mind with gossip, chaos, clickbait, and fear all day, why would you expect peace? Your mind is not a dumpster. Stop throwing unverified, impulsive, emotional garbage into it, and then wondering why it stinks in there. You want power? Then take it back, up here, because the man who controls his mind cannot be manipulated. He cannot be thrown off course. He cannot be ruled by fear, failure, or fantasy. Control your mind, because every battle, every single one, is won or lost before the first move is made. You can feel everything, Sime, and still let nothing control you. That's not apathy. That's not coldness. That's mastery. Let me tell you a story. He missed a job that could have changed his life. A dream role, a better salary, a chance to move forward. And why? Not because he wasn't qualified, not because someone sabotaged him, but because he showed up in the wrong mood. That morning, he spilled coffee on his shirt. Then someone cut him off in traffic. Then the receptionist made him wait 20 minutes. By the time he sat down with the hiring manager, his body was tense, his tone was off. His face wore frustration, and his energy, without saying a word, said, "I don't belong here." They never called him back. That's the quiet cost of an uncontrolled mood. It leaks into the moments that had nothing to do with the trigger. It poisons opportunities that didn't deserve to die. It spreads from one small incident into an entire day, or worse, an entire future. Everything that follows, your actions, your decisions, your relationships, depends on the state of your mood. The Stoics gave us a timeless warning. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Grasp this truth, and you will unlock a source of strength few ever find. Anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment, anxiety. These emotions are human, natural even. Marcus Aurelius himself felt them. But here's the catch. When you allow these emotions to hijack your behavior, when you hand over the keys to your day because of a fleeting feeling, you've already lost the battle before it even started. Remember this, your mood is not who you are. It's like the weather, constantly shifting, temporary, never permanent. Just as you wouldn't cancel your entire day because it's raining, Don't let a bad mood cancel your life's progress. Think about it. How many times has one small irritation, a delayed email, a sarcastic remark, a missed train, triggered a chain reaction that ruined your whole day? Suddenly you're snappy, short-tempered, distracted. But the real problem isn't what happened outside of you. The problem is you never paused to reset. You never asked yourself, do I want this momentary feeling to dictate my entire day? The Stoic response is simple. Pause, process, proceed. A Stoic doesn't ignore emotions. He watches them carefully, like a scientist observing an experiment. He doesn't pretend everything is fine, but he refuses to hand over control. Instead of reacting impulsively, he reflects thoughtfully. Instead of spiraling downward, he pauses to choose a better path. Feelings aren't facts. They are signals, warnings, or alerts, not commands. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to lash out. Just because you feel sad doesn't mean your world is ending. Just because you're triggered doesn't mean your reaction is justified. Here's a practical tool straight from the Stoic playbook, emotional labeling. When you feel overwhelmed, name the emotion. Say to yourself, I feel frustrated, or I feel insecure, or I feel dismissed. Just putting a name to it creates space between you and the feeling. And in that space, clarity emerges. With that clarity, ask yourself, what would a stronger, more disciplined version of me do right now? Then do that. Gratitude is another powerful weapon in your emotional arsenal. Remember this, you can't hold anger and appreciation at the same time. When your mood turns dark, shift your focus. Find just one thing to be grateful for. A kind gesture, a moment of peace, a memory that warms your heart, and anchor yourself there. Because here's the truth, if you don't control your mood will control your words, your choices, your relationships, and eventually your results. And more often than not, the damage caused by a bad mood can't be repaired with a simple, I'm sorry. So, don't chase perfection, chase emotional mastery. Train yourself to stay calm when the storm rages around you. Train yourself to smile without reason, to respond from principle instead of emotion. When you hold your center, the world doesn't seem so intimidating. And you become immeasurably stronger. Control your mood, because no victory is truly yours if your emotions are still pulling the strings. Or section 3, control your money. Continuing from the idea of mastering your emotions and inner strength, let's shift to another crucial aspect, self-control over money and how it impacts your life. Have you ever noticed people driving cars they can't truly respect themselves for, posting pictures online hoping strangers will admire them? Behind that glossy image, they're drowning in debt, maxed out credit cards, overdue rent. But their clothes are fresh and their ego remains untouchable, at least until the bills come due. The modern world no longer enslaves you with chains. It traps you with payments. Monthly payments, mental payments, spiritual payments. You cannot build peace while piling up debt. And you can't build power when you've sold your discipline for instant gratification. The Stoics didn't talk about money the way we do today, but they spoke deeply about attachment, about addiction to comfort. Epictetus warned, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Let's be honest, most people don't have a money problem. They have a self-control problem, I deserve this problem, and I'll deal with it later problem. They're not spending money, they're spending peace of mind and calling it happiness. Let me tell you something the world won't. If you can't say no to what you want now, you'll never have what you truly want later. A Stoic doesn't chase wealth to show off. He builds it to protect his freedom, to make sure he never becomes a beggar. Not for money, not for favors, not for approval, because dependence in any form is a silent cage. Real wealth isn't just income, it's control. Control over your spending, control over your emotions, control over your future. It's the ability to say, I don't need this right now because I'm building something bigger. Think about it. Have you ever gone shopping just because you were bored? Ever bought something expensive not because you needed it, but because your ego was bruised and you wanted to feel in control? That's not power. That's emotional escape disguised as self-worth. Here's the harsh truth. If your mood controls your money, you're already broke, no matter your income. A Stoic builds systems. He budgets not to restrict joy, but to protect freedom. He saves because storms come without warning. He invests not only in assets, but in mindset, skill, and stability. He avoids debt because the interest you pay isn't just financial, it's mental. Debt steals more than dollars. It steals your options. Debt makes you say yes to jobs you hate. It keeps you awake at night. It turns your future into a prison you willingly walk into. To be clear, money isn't evil, but obsession with it is. When you live to impress others or stress over it, when you live beyond your means, you sink below your potential. You don't need to be rich. You need to be stable. You need to be in control. Because there is no stoicism without self-reliance. And there is no self-reliance if you're at war with your own wallet. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the future you will live in. So before you buy something, ask yourself, does this support the path I'm choosing? Does it protect my freedom and peace of mind? That question marks the beginning of mastering your money the Stoic way. Not to accumulate, but to build a sustainable, meaningful life powered by inner strength. Section 4, Self-Control, the path to true freedom. Who is the man you are becoming? Every spending decision, every choice reflects that person. Is it a reward you give yourself or just a momentary reaction? Will this really matter in 5 years, or is it just feeding a fleeting 5-second emotion? If you want peace, fix the leaks that are draining you. If you want true power, stop outsourcing your discipline to impulse and emotions. Because a man who can't control his money will always be at the mercy of those who do. Control your money, because financial freedom isn't simply about being rich. It's about no longer being a slave to money or material pressures. The man who masters himself cannot be controlled by anyone else. Most people want freedom, but what they actually chase is permission. Permission to indulge, permission to react, permission to be lazy, undisciplined, and still expect peace. But true freedom doesn't come from outside liberties, it comes from internal discipline. And until you master yourself, your words, your mood, your money, your mind, you will always be controlled by something else. Look around and you'll see men addicted to impulse, reacting to every insult, spending recklessly, exploding over trivial things, craving validation for every step they take. They're not free, they're just loud. And beneath that noise is fear. A Stoic lives differently. He's not cold or emotionless. He simply doesn't hand over the keys to his inner peace every time life gets messy. He doesn't shout to prove anything, nor does he show off because he fears being underestimated. He doesn't overspend because he knows true power is quiet. Discipline is his armor. It's how he walks steadily through the world. Not because the world is easy, but because he is no longer fragile inside. Let me ask you, what would your life look like if your emotions didn't control your mornings? If your thoughts didn't spiral every night? If your words always matched your wisdom? If your wallet reflected your values? That's not just a dream. It's what happens when you start choosing control over comfort. The Stoics didn't chase luxury. They pursued alignment. They didn't seek applause, they sought integrity. They understood freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's becoming someone who doesn't need to be rescued from himself. And here's the paradox. Most men never learn this. Discipline doesn't cage you, it liberates you. When you control your speech, you build trust. When you control your thoughts, you unlock clarity. When you control your emotions, you win battles without starting wars. When you control your money, you move freely instead of begging for options. You want power? Then stop trying to control people, outcomes, or opinions. Start with the battlefield inside, because the man who wins there can't be stopped. Control is not the goal, it's the path. Freedom follows. You will never be truly free until you master your impulses. Not your boss, not your past, not your circumstances. You, because you are both the architect and the saboteur, the protector and the prisoner, the one who chooses to build or to break. You don't need more motivation. You need more ownership. You've heard enough speeches. Now it's time to look in the mirror and ask, am I controlled by my mood? Am I leaking power through my words? Am I broken discipline even though I have money? Is my mind working for me or against me? If even one of these answers hurts, good. That means you're ready. Start small. Speak with more purpose. Think with more clarity. Feel with more balance. Spend with more intention. Control these four and watch the rest of your life bend to your will. This isn't about being perfect. It's about never being passive again, because no one is coming to save you but you. Remember, the journey to mastering yourself is never easy, but it's the only path that leads to true freedom. Freedom of mind, emotion, and life itself. If you found value in this message, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the subscribe button on Stoic Fantastic right now so you never miss any lessons, stories, or tools that help you build inner strength, peace, and resilience against every challenge. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts, feelings, or questions. I want to hear your story and know where you are on your Stoic journey. And don't forget to like and share this video with anyone who's also searching for calm, power, and self-mastery in their life. Together, we'll build a strong community where each person is a calm, powerful, and self-controlled warrior. Start today, because life waits for no one. With Stoic Fantastic, you're not just learning philosophy, you're creating a better, stronger version of yourself every single day. Subscribe now and let's write the next chapter in your journey to self-mastery. Are you ready?